the attack type of aliens, though. I thought they were sort of like, like friendly Nordics.
Well, there's no such thing as a friendly Nordic either, but they're all bad. It's our planet, okay,
Yeah.
and we need to get them off the hell off our planet. So
Okay, well that's well, see, that's the thing. Okay, if they're going to invade the Earth, Sean, I mean, somebody's got to tell them we own it. Okay, now whether or not we was here first or somebody else was here, is beside the point. We got it now. I mean, they are actually illegal aliens from space. Is the way I look at it.
well, let's put it this way. Um, we share it, okay, and we'll talk about this in the interview. But all my books are about how, excuse me, uh, we're in a contested area of space.
Mm-hmm.
And the contested area of space is that this planet is claimed by two major empires. And we will talk about looking at let's talk about this. We can talk about the NASA logo and the Space Force logo.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at them, they have very specific clusters of stars on each logo. And we can talk about that if you like. But it's funny because when Trump finally formed Space Force, they almost got sued by Paramount, or were being sued by Paramount, because they were using the Star Trek logo from Paramount. And then they said, no, Gene Roddenberry got this from the Navy, and it was an old, the Delta was an actual old naval ensign. And so they got out of it. But it's, anyway, so the sixth branch of the military was the Space Force.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a theme song yet because they need, the Marines have the K songs go rolling along. I think they should just make the Star Wars theme, the actual theme for the Space Force.
Now, see, I noticed that as far as the Space Force goes, almost every single thing Trump did was backtracked, deleted, undone, except for Space Force. Is that because it has a real value?
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll talk all about that. Look, this is what my books are about. My books are all about, and I'll have the entire series done by October 1st, my birthday. I will have written 6 books this year.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when they slit your throat and you can't talk and you have throat cancer. And I'll have the entire series. But this the book I have now, which is the let me see. Yeah, okay. My latest book, which is the Sumerian War.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before the end of 2010, we fought 2 extraterrestrial wars. And if you want to know where trillions of dollars have disappeared to, that's where it went. The Pentagon just doesn't lose, billions of dollars. And when all of the markets collapsed in 2008, on September 9th, oddly enough, 2008, you had $8 trillion. $8 trillion just disappear from the world economy. And I'm telling you where it went. It went to fight the Sumerians, or the beings from Aldebaran, and then it went to fight the Draco, and who were from Alpha Draconis. And we'll talk about the star clusters on the NATO thing. This here is from these ships are a combination of Palladian and German technology. Mm-hmm. That one was actually built by BMW Messerschmitt in the 80s. I'm sorry, in the back in the 30s. And that's what one of my books is about. The Vril Diaries is all about how you had these 4 psychic women who, channeling the Sumer, were responsible for the greatest mystery of the 20th century, which is how the hell did the Germans go from basically biplanes and Messerschmitts to having space flight within 20 years. Mm-hmm. And how do we get it? Because it's a combination of the German technology and by the way, the next big propaganda drop is going to be the Oppenheimer movie. Chris Nolan. I mean, his first one was Dunkirk, because the Germans let those people escape, and then Hitler tried to come to a peace deal with the English and the Americans to have them help him attack Stalin. And of course, it didn't work out that way. The Japanese jumped the gun, and had Hitler waited 3 more years, they would have won the war. And we've monkeyed with time a couple of different ways. We tried to kill Hitler like 3 times, and every time we did it, the Germans wound up winning the war. So we left history the way it was. So that's all. That's all for that.
Okay. Well, Sean, is it true that Nazis are in the center of the earth right now?
No. I would say
Where they at?
I would say they're in Antarctica. I mean, they have a huge base in Antarctica.
Okay.
There's other stuff in the center of the earth that doesn't like us, and I could explain all about that. And it was proven by the Chinese. There's huge velts. I mean, how much of this do you want to record and get on a recording now, or you just tell me?
Yeah, no, we're live right now.
Okay. Oh, we're live. All right. Okay, so let's talk about that. So in 1989, there were stories reported in Newsweek and Time and the New York Times that the Chinese were doing massive underground nuclear testing. And when they did this, they were taking sonic readings, radar, if you will, of the Earth. And the Tibetans have talked about this forever. Mm-hmm. And they've talked about how there are 2 gigantic subcontinents underneath the Himalayas and underneath the Gobi Desert, which were called Agartha Major and Agartha Minor. And some said this was where Shambhala was and whatever else. And so they proved it, that it was there, that the Tibetans were right. And what the Tibetans have been saying that forever is that there are a race of giants and also a race of saurians, a race of reptilians that live in these pockets, these bubbles, if you will, these nests underground. And some of them are benevolent, wise, and vegetarians. And the other ones are not, that they call the real reptilians that work actively with the Illuminati and, P3 Masons and the Council of 12 and can actually camouflage, take on human form, take over the bodies of human beings. And there's an entire chapter in the latest book in got to get these backgrounds up there so I can actually show you. There we go. Copy invite link. Video. Select. Okay, I got to get this right. Okay, there you go. So in the current book, let me see, which is this one right now. There we go.
Okay.
This is Sands of Time book 7. Now I've written 7 books in the series so far. I'm finished with 8 and 9. I just got to get them out there and published. And this one is called The Sumerian War. And it's basically how we went to war with a race of beings called the Illichim, who were responsible for setting up the Babylonian Empire, setting up the economic system of the Babylon Empire, which we're still being enslaved by today. Everything that you can see as far as interest banking goes was all set up by the Babylonians. Second Empire was Rome. The Third Empire they tried to set up was the Third Reich. And it had to do with anyway, so the real reptilians are the ones that have kind of a proboscis that they squirt this liquid in your face, and it basically eats out your mind, your brain, and then they can kind of take control of you and work you like a puppet, which explains a lot of our government. So
don't it though?
So Daniel Ott, thank you, wonderful hat, thank you for this, Stetson, thank you for being the Cosmic Cowboy, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I've been a big fan of your show, so thank you for having me on.
Well, sure. Hey, I'm glad to have you on, Sean. In a rough percentage, what percentage of our government do you think are reptilian shapeshifters?
Okay, now, people have to realize, and I'm going to curse one time on this, that I'm not a bullshit guy.
Go ahead, damn it.
I was one of the founders of the Sci-Fi Channel. I was one of the founders of UPN CW. I was, if you've heard of Area 51, it's because of me. If you've heard of Chupacabras, it's because of me. If you've heard of the Phoenix Lights, was not a national story until I got a hold of it on hard copy. So I've been paid by Strange Universe and hard copy and Paramount to investigate a lot of this stuff and get paid to do it. And this was not my field of expertise. Matter of fact, I got hired to direct and produce a UFO documentary back in 1990 called UFO Contactees. And we had a budget of about $350,000, which was a big budget. And we went all around the world. We went to France, we went to Billy Meyer's farm in Switzerland, went up and down Italy. We were in the fields on the Salisbury Plain, around Stonehenge when the modern crop circle phenomenon began, when it was just big circles before about 93, 94, they started turning into messages and glyphs and prophecy, which many people said were the Arcturians, who were 10th dimensional energy beings, et cetera, et cetera. And I have to explain a little bit about the Sands of Time series.
Okay, sure.
When I was working for Geraldo Rivera, we had a show which was called Now It Can Be Told. And in 1991, I had actually found there's the first book, by the way, right behind you. Thank you for running these. We have a big special on it now. $10 off the book. It's $25, which is basically what it cost us to print it. So that people can get this book and join the adventure, because it's kind of the beginning of the Sands of Time adventure. I had a guy approach me, and by the way, I was behind the alien autopsy. I was behind the alien interview. I was behind the finding the hilltop that looked down on Area 51 and filming it for the first time. So I was one of the only people on the planet that had work there that could tell you what it looked like. And I would test the veracity of people who claim they work there by saying, okay, tell me what it looks like. And we had a guy who was a super soldier, who 6'4", gold eyes, big scar across his face. Saw this guy do amazing physical things. I mean, on the beach, he could run the 100-yard dash in like 9 seconds. And he could jump to the top of a lifeguard stand, in one leap. I mean, 20 feet in the air, this guy. And I love those videos you have behind you. And he came out, claimed that he was an assassin, codenamed Ghostwalker, and that he had 61 kills, and that now he was dying of Hodgkin's disease, and he had a bunch of information that he wanted to release. And he wanted to release it to Geraldo, but he wanted to get paid like $250,000 to release this information. So he said, if I give you this stuff, you'll be hunted, you'll be probably jailed, you'll be probably killed. I mean, your life is going to be over. And I said, I don't care, as long as the information gets out there to people. So we took him out to Vegas. We ran around a circle. We had a big security team ready to escort him to the East Coast, and he basically just disappeared. And we never saw him again. But there were people watching this, and who said, okay, all right, he's willing to, he's a reporter and an investigator who's willing to go the extra mile, who's willing to tell the truth to people no matter what. And some years later, in 2010, I got a call from a very scary bunch of lawyers in Century City. And literally, they took the ABC Entertainment Complex. I'm not kidding. I'm not being crude when I say this.
Yeah.
And turned it into what is called the Butthole Building in Century City. And it looks like a butthole. I mean, literally, they did this whole thing. So it's got a big hole in the middle of the building, which is where all these attorneys are. And which I think is hilarious. And they brought me up there, and they made me sign a stack of military-grade non-disclosure agreements. I mean, literally, where they said, we can take you out, make you a target of opportunity, put a bullet in your head if you reveal certain things about working personnel or the name of the man who was giving you this. And after I signed all these papers, this Lorraine lady gave me a stack of diaries, a leather-bound diaries about this big, and said, good luck, have fun. She said, just don't use his name. And I was like, okay. And I'm looking through these, trying to figure out. Now, I come from the world of screenwriting. I sold my first screenplay to Buck Rogers when I was still in college. Wow. I sold a TV series to Regine Roddenberry, who's a good friend of mine. And this all came from my dad, who was the vice president of TRW. And that was back in the days when TRW, I have two godfathers who walked on the moon. I'm convinced my mom was having an affair with Gus Grissom, because that's what broke, when he died, that's what broke up my parents' marriage.
Wow.
And yeah, there's a lot of stuff. So I had astronauts. I had Mercury, Gemini, Apollo astronauts around the house. They'd come over to the pool and go swimming. And
sure.
We'd all sit around and watch I Dream of Jeannie, and these guys just laugh at Tony Nelson. Wow. And so this is what became the Sands of Time series. It is It's been called the best book series since Ian Fleming's James Bond. I've been compared to Isaac Asimov, Frank Herbert, Ray Bradbury, who were all childhood heroes of mine. Read all of it when I was a kid. And it is the single-handed greatest drop of black world, black ops, secret government information. And to give you an idea, you have people out there like Luis Alessandro,
right,
who've now renamed UFOs because they've backed themselves in a corner with people laughing at UFOs, where they've renamed them UAPs.
Right.
Or, unidentified aerial phenomenon, like it makes a big deal. Because these guys have painted themselves into a corner because now they want to admit to a lot of stuff. But they had a $22 million budget at the Pentagon, which supposedly investigated UFOs. It wasn't doing any such thing. What it was doing was this side of the government was trying to figure out what that side of the government was doing. And to give you an idea, when they had the commandant of Nellis before the Congress, before Harry Reid, ask him why they confiscated 89,000 acres of public land in Nevada to expand the borders of Area 51. Harry Reid said, well, what the hell's going on there? That you need all this land.
Right.
And the commandant said, I don't know. I don't have clearance to go there. The president of the United States has a Q8 clearance, which is why it's interesting because this whole QAnon thing, it's a above top secret clearance, is the Q. And he says the president has like a Q8. And you need like Q16 just to set foot on the base. And it's not part of the United States. It's literally executive orders have been signed that you step there. That's why they call it the dark side of the moon. And also why many people believe that actual real film footage that was later fictionalized into the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind actually took place out at Area 51 or 5-1 or Groom Lake, as it's called. So that's where these books came from. That's where all these books come from there, from the journals of Ted Humphrey, and it's me novelizing them. So they're not just, boring diaries, but something that's readable, and ultimately something that I hope we can turn into a TV series and into a series of movies. So that is where the Sands of Time book comes from, because Ted Humphrey was my main character, who started contacting me and calling me and giving me information because I had a conduit at the time, because I basically convinced Art Bell to go the metaphysical route. And
nice.
Art realized his ratings just went crazy whenever he had me on. And his exact words were, I want to know everybody and everything that you know. So I handed him my Rolodex, and I basically produced the show for years, providing with guests. And we built that program into the #1 late night show, #3 overall. There he is. Hey, good old Art. God bless him. There you go. The #3 behind Dr. Laura and Rush Limbaugh, but #1 late nights. And we had 27 million listeners, all kind of being programmed before they went to bed. And that's not taking anything away from Art. He was a brilliant radio host and an interviewer. But I was the one that was providing with all the guests, because we were calling him on a phone out in front of a little alien of all things, which is on the edge of Area 51. And I finally said, Art, get off your ass, go outside, get out of your trailer, look up. There's something coming your way. And he saw kind of a gigantic triangular ship that was just blocking out the stars behind it. And that's when he said, I want to know everything you know. And he went from literally 5,000 people in the middle of the night in downtown Las Vegas to this global phenomenon that he eventually became to be. Through the Coast to Coast format that I kind of put together for him. So
nice.
That's where that all comes from.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sean, hey, we've got the viewers watching the program have questions, so we'll go through a few of those real quick.
That's great. Thank you so much. Wait, should I put my... I'm going to show you.
Yeah, I would do the glasses here for the Q&A, man. I mean, that's the ultimate right there. Wait a minute. I think I got your friend here in my background here. All right. Sure. This is from Doreen 89 or Doreen B8951. It says Marshall Masters is saying Nibiru will be visible in 2024. What do you think?
Complete nonsense.
Okay.
Sorry. Complete nonsense. Nibiru is out there. We learned about it actually from the Maya. And if you look at Chichen Itza, this is one of the things you learn from Ancient Aliens, another show that I produced like the first 3 seasons of. The Mexicans are from outer space. That's what they teach you. They not only from outer space, but they wear UFOs on their heads. Just saying. And if you look at Chichen Itza, outside of Mexico City, not Chichen, yeah, I'm sorry, Teotihuacan, in Mexico City, you have the center part of it represents the belt of Orion, and then you have a series of temples that are a direct landscape of the solar system. Where they have, you got Mercury, you got Venus, you have Earth, you have Mars, you have the asteroid belt. It actually describes a planet in the position where the asteroid belt is, and it goes all the way out to Nibiru, I guess you could call it, way out there, just way, way, way out there. And some people have also said that it's described it as Nemesis, that our sun is a binary star, and that there's a dark brown dwarf that's out there. However, the planet Jupiter is actually a failed star, and it gives off 4 times more energy than it takes in, which is one of the reasons why Arthur C. Clarke, when he wrote 2010 Odyssey 2, had his aliens with the cosmic dollar bills or whatever, the monoliths, turn Jupiter into a sun. So that they could develop life on Io or whatever. But no, look, I've been debating the 10th planet people since 2003.
Who's winning that debate?
Well, me, obviously, because nothing they said was right. But this came from a woman who claims to channel gray aliens, Zeta Reticulans, Nancy Leader. She says she's never been wrong about anything, even though she changes all of her predictions, to make sure that she's never wrong. Yeah. Fortunately, we have something called the internet where it's written in ink and you can check, all the nonsense that she says. And they've been saying that this planet has been coming at us. Matter of fact, they got caught. I caught them because they were showing a planet that they said, oh, here's the exhaust pipe that's coming off it, and it proves that it's on its way to us. And I showed everybody there's nothing more than Io, which is one of the moons of Jupiter. And what they said was an exhaust pipe was basically a volcano. And they said, if you remember, March 3rd of 2003, they said it was going to come and we'd all be destroyed. And I had to get up and say, no, please don't be idiots. It's not true. And I tried to point out that one of the most populous forms of astronomy is cometology. We had a 14-year-old kid in Japan who discovered Hyakutake. We had 2 amateurs named Hale and Bob who, discovered the Hale-Bopp comet. And there's a whole big conspiracy about that comet, and which is connected to the Phoenix Lights, which is connected to Courtney Brown, them trying to smear Art Bell, and the death of the people at Heaven's Gate. There's an entire conspiracy around that, which someday we will go in. I'm trying to find somebody. It happened a long time ago that wants to go into a deep dive, because I'm the first person to do national stories on the Phoenix Lights. It was not mentioned at all. You had a 22-mile across UFO park itself in the approach corridor for the Sky Harbor International Airport in Phoenix. And nobody was saying anything about it. Matter of fact, only Francis Barwood, who was on the city council, brought it up and said, I'm getting thousands of phone calls from people. Don't you think we should investigate this? And you just hear crickets in the background. Until I came along, and actually the Phoenix Lights returned in January of 98. And I got the hard copy people to say, look, let me go out there and investigate it. And they literally said, well, we don't want to pay for you to, this is when Southwest was flying out there for $48. We don't want to pay for a plane ticket. And I said, if I cover the Phoenix Lights and I cover Sedona, Arizona, and the weird stuff there, and on the way back, if I cover the Hawaiian Tropic bikini girls getting hypnotized by an NLP weirdo that he claims he can sleep with them, will you give me the story? And they said, sure. If you can come back with 3 stories, we'll give it to you. And we did a 6-minute story on the Phoenix Lights, first national story ever done. And we gave it to a girl named Allison Holloway, who was married to a friend of ours. And she turned it into an hour TV special for UPN, which was called Danger in Our Skies, was the name of the show.
All right, let me get to another question real quick. This is from Anonymous. By the way, Anonymous 129, you can change your name. It says, did they lie to us and say we won the war against the Nazis when we really lost it? Did we really lose to the Nazis?
No, we beat them. I mean, we own Germany now. Germany doesn't have its own government.
Okay.
Germany has a student council basically that has to ask our permission to do everything. They can't do anything without the permission of the U.S. military.
Well, Sean, you know my last name is Ott, and so that's got a German heritage there from Otto. So I'm going to speak. Right. I can speak some German. And you ready for it?
Okay.
How'd that sound?
You need a smaller mustache to do that.
And black?
Yeah, exactly. So this book, you'll love this book.
Okay.
Because this is the personal diaries. It's right behind you now.
Yeah.
You'll notice it's got the black sun on the front.
Right.
And it's got the symbol for the Vril force power in the center, which they believe to be the gravity, basically, the ultimate force in the universe. So these 5 women who came from Zagreb, who were led by a woman named Sigrid and Maria Orsic, who was kind of Hitler's squeeze for a while, were channeling the spirit of a man by the name of Dietrich Eckart, who was the spiritual mentor. All of his ideas eventually became Mein Kampf, which was basically written by Rudolf Hess, but Hitler was kind of raving through it.
Yeah.
And so it's written by, this is the actual diary of Baron Wilhelm Fritz Ritter von Spottenheim. And this is his personal diary of him being kind of a lover of Sigrid and these 5 women who then Dietrich Eckart went away, and they said another force is coming through, and they began to channel the Sumer. And the Sumer claimed they created Babylon, that they've been here about 500 million years, that they come and go from this planet periodically. That they're from the star Aldebaran, which is in the constellation of the Hyades, which is the face of Taurus. It's the big red star. And that and they began giving Sigrid technical information because she started writing down technical information in Sumerian. And the head of the Thule Society, who believed in the inner earth and the blonde giants in the inner earth, he brought in a bunch of these scientists. And they started building flying saucers so that they could achieve Raumflügen. And by the way, just so you know, I'm about 2 or 3 weeks away from having the first Sands of Time book translated into German for the German market. We've had it translated.
Let's just clear something up here. Yeah. What's with the 2 naked women? What's going on there?
Oh, because the Vrildamen, who were the women they would channel naked, and they would take off all their clothes. They wore their hair ankle length, and that was part of the ceremony. They would take off their clothes. Their hair was like psychic tendrils, and Hitler dug it, man. This is all the Vrildamen diaries, which women love, because it shows the power of the Vril sex force. It shows the power of the inner workings of the Nazi Party, and these women basically tricked the Nazis into giving them the money to build a ship that could hold, several hundred people. And they took 7 trips to Aldebaran, and they left behind Wilhelm Schumann and Heinrich Himmler, who were waiting to get on. I
don't know where the picture is taking those women, but it must be cold in there, wherever it was. All right, so let's get to another question. It says, I had encounters with aliens. A reptilian wanted me to jump through a portal he made. Would you know the reason for that?
Well, it's how you bounce from one place to another. It's how you there's portals all over Southern California, as an example. For example, if you go out to Catalina, to a town called Avalon, there's a whole series of portals inside the big round building called the casino. And because all of these places were actually Lemurian temple sites back when was Lemuria, and there was a valley 17,000 years ago between here and there. Already you've got parts of Southern California sliding into the ocean.
Good.
We just had a collapse of all these buildings in Rolling Hills, and where I grew up, actually, Rolling Hills Estates. And
it should clean the feces off the streets of San Francisco.
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco just needs to be flushed. I mean, again, if God doesn't do something to Los Angeles and San Francisco, then he owes Sodom and Gomorrah one hell of an apology. So,
that's a good point.
So the Vrildamen, again, they tricked the Nazis into giving them money to buy this ship so that they sent out a big telegram March 11th of 1945, saying no one is staying here. We are all going home. And they took in 7 trips, they took 1,700 German scientists. They were the ones that disappeared. And the rest of them were split up at Peenemünde with Werner von Braun, who came to the United States with his guys. Excuse me. And the rest of them went to Russia. And they dragged us into the 20th century.
This is from our moderator, Jade, who's running our chat right now.
Hi, Jay.
Thank you for addressing her. Can you tell us about the Vril Society?
The Vril Society were an offshoot of the Vril Damen, and they were the Vril women, the Vril Damen, when they were actually working. And it's all in here, by the way. Everything that you're asking me is in this book. It's the diary, as I said, of Baron Fritz, as he later is called, and Sigrun, and his sexual relationship with one of them, and how they were teaching women to access not only their psychic power, but also access the sexual energy of the Vril force, which was magnificently powerful. And people need to understand that they studied. Okay, I lived in a monastery in Nepal.
Okay.
For about a year at the foot of Mount Everest, which is called Tangpache. And it was a Karmakagyu black hat monastery. And we studied what was called the Vajra, or the lightning bolt, which was kind of the first light in the universe. But we had a group of nuns that lived about 60 miles away, and they would come visit about every 3 months or so. And these nuns studied the darkness, or the void, which is the eternal part of the universe. It's the part that has no beginning and no end, really. But it's the female power. And when you understand that the ultimate power of women is the fact that they are magnetic, they are blue, they pull energy into them, we find them attractive, as opposed to men, which represent the male god force. So women are magnetic, men are electrically repulsive, I guess you could say, which is why it's so much fun to look at women and not so much fun to look at men. So
that's good to know.
So they had this power, and the power was the ability to harness that magnetic drive. I mean, one of the nuns did this to me once. I'll just tell you an embarrassing story where I said something stupid because I was stupid. And she just raised her eyebrow and, gave me this raging erection, because it was like she just said, "No, you want to feel the force? Really? Here you go. Have a dose of that." And that's the kind of thing that they could do. So the Vril Society, which they don't really know kind of what they're talking about, studies this power, which is, by the way, the symbol which I have in the book on the center. This is super cool. As I was writing the book, this crop circle appeared. And that crop circle is the symbol of the black sun, the invisible sun, that represents the light year across black hole at the center of our galaxy. Wow. Now, in order to travel in saucers, UFOs, what have you, or through time, really, you need a what's called a ZTG, which is a zero time generator, which has to then basically mimic the zero time point, because if you're at the exact center of the galaxy, there's no time, no space. The whole thing is rotating kind of like this, but you have to mimic that in order to jump from place to place, especially from remember, if you're going from where we are at the outer rim of the fourth arm of the Milky Way galaxy, you're jumping outwards or inwards, you're also instantaneously traveling through time, where time runs differently. So, for example, if you jump to the outer rim of the galaxy, you could spend you could spend 18 years, 20 years out there, and then come back to Earth, and it would be less than a year later, because time would travel differently. As you go out to the edge, time travels much faster than you would to the beginning. It's very much like taking 2 tennis balls and putting them in a bicycle wheel and spinning the wheel. The one on the outside obviously goes much faster. As anybody knows that tries to run around somebody on a bend, in a foot race or horse race or what have you. So the Vril Damen study this force in the universe, which in essence is, I guess, the Bible talks about how the God force binds the universe together. I think it's in the book of Job, and even in the book of Job, he talks about how that the Lord hangs the earth upon nothing, and that force is gravity. It's what keeps everything together. There's how does an atom actually maintain its integrity and not just fly off into the universe? It's the gravity force, and once you harness gravity, which is what we figured out how to do in the 50s and 60s or so. Once you understand what gravity is, and this is the big thing about Area 51, and I went out there and I said, I don't care if there's aliens out there. They have technology that will change mankind, and they're not giving it to us.
Right.
And so, there you go. So I have one of those signs, by the way. I stole, it wasn't that sign, but I stole one of the signs off the fence at Area 51. That shows you how crazy I am. And so when you understand not what gravity does, that's Newtonian physics or Einsteinian physics is all what gravity does, but what it is. And then you can create gravity as a wave, like you can create microwaves or gamma rays or what have you. Then you can create Einstein-Rosen bridges. That's what they were doing when they were testing the ships out of 5-1. And remember, they were testing them on the public side of the valley, right over our heads, while we're standing on the freeway on Highway 375. And why? They have a military reservation that is 3 times the size of Switzerland, and yet they're testing them over our heads. And the reason they did this is because they did not want to fly too high, because if they did, then they would come up on the radar, and then they'd have to explain what they were doing to the guys at Nellis, because the guys at Nellis didn't know what they were doing, and every time the Nellis guys would see something over 5-1, they'd have to report it and say something about it. Hence the commandant of Nellis saying, I don't know what goes on there. I've never set foot there. I don't know what's happening. They did eventually give Harry Reid a tour, and I think they fed him some pine-scented Kool-Aid, and he was like, oh, it's all fine. You guys can do whatever you want. So, and what you will see happen, and we have this on film and video, and look, we were taking pictures of these things. We were showing video of it. The media refused to show any of it. And, I personally was being mocked by people like Stuart Brown at Popular Science and Popular Mechanics magazine, where they were just saying, oh, these guys are idiots, and it's just, it's just advanced technology, because they were talking about the stealth bomber, which is still going on at 5-1, by the way. Most of the stuff was actually happening at S4, which is about 30 miles away. And Area 51 was only interesting when they moved the 9 flying saucers or discs in there, built them a facility at S4 into the side of the mountain, which had 9 hangars and 5 levels going down. And they tested them until about 92. And then they got so much heat because of the Dean Devlin movie, because I took Dean up to the top of the hill, and Dean came up with the whole idea for Independence Day by saying, so if we got invaded from another planet, this place would be our last line of defense. And I said, yeah, basically. And that's why we came up with the whole idea for Independence Day. And so he and I have been friends for, quite some time. And which is true. But they do ramjets, scramjets, plutonium pulse drives, obviously the stealth bomber, the YF-22, all kinds of experimental ships craft. But what you would see is the saucers like skipping around, and then on film it would just blink out here and just reappear on the other part of the sky. Because what they would do is there's 3 gravity amplifiers at the bottom of each one of the ships. And when you turn them into delta mode, it basically reaches through dimensional time-space, grabs over there, then bends it, creates an Einstein-Rosen bridge, so that there comes around the ship, then they turn it off, and so it just reappears, over there. We timed it within a 20th of a second. And that's what, that's from Independence Day. Of interest, take a look at that, since you've got that great video on the screen, the Independence Day video. That ship is exactly, from Independence Day, what appeared over Phoenix. Round on the front, 2 big fins on the back, looking like a huge omega, and the rest of the ships were triangles, which I think is interesting because Arizona was founded by Ulysses S. Grant in 1912 on the 33rd level parallel, and the postal code for Arizona is AZ, Alpha Omega, beginning and end. And I think it's designed to be I think it was over Russia. That's over Moscow. and it was designed to be kind of a city where people could flee should the Edgar Cayce earthquake scenario occur, and Phoenix become a port city, and LA goes into the ocean, which is not going to happen now because that whole timeline has been basically blown out of the water. And the reason it has been is because we described in my books this massive drop of information took them on. We basically, we kicked the ass of the Draconians and the Sumerians.
All right.
Who
manipulate? Sean, let me break in. Let me get another question here because we always try to include our audience. This is from Smoke C. It says, Sean, how does God fit into the theories of aliens in space? There was no mention of God creating aliens anywhere in the Bible, which implies they're separate.
No, it's all through the Bible. Not only is it, you guys are stupid. It's all through the Bible. Look, who do you think the Lord of Hosts is? Who do you think the mountain of God is? Who do you think, was the pillar of fire by night and the, smoke by day? The entire Bible, if you look at Ezekiel, if you look at Moses, if you look at, is basically that whomever was here. And by the way, if you look at, you're just, don't be ignorant. That question's ignorant. If you look at the Genesis, and it talks about the Elohim means those from the sky. It's a group of gods. And they create the earth in 7 eras. It doesn't say days, it's eras. And man is created on the 6th day or 6th era. And then suddenly they're not happy with man. And at the beginning of Genesis 2, you now have, well, let's make man in our image. And what happened to the chopped liver people? The man that was created at the end of Genesis 1. Which I think, by the way, are the Bigfoot and the Sasquatch, that those were the original men, and that they were, huge and hairy, and they have the ability to travel interdimensionally from one place to another. And then God creates Adam and Eve. By the way, not Adam and Steve, as the Democrats want you to believe. And so, and they create Hue-Man, which you can spell Hue, which is the light of God, with the Elohim, which means those who come from the sky. It's a group entity. And then all throughout the Old Testament, you will find that they put a race here, originally called the Hyksos, that eventually becomes known as the Israelites. And that race is taken care of throughout the Old Testament. Matter of fact, there were Assyrians that were surrounding. There was 250,000 Assyrians that were surrounding the city of Israel. And they were going to come in and kill everybody and rape everybody. And they sent an ambassador down to say, look, if you give up now, we'll just, we'll just kill the men. We'll take off the women, whatever else. And this is where the famous verse in the Bible comes, because Isaiah is reporting really all the things that are going on while people are laughing at these guys. And it's where the verse came from, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. Yea, will help you, yea, will strengthen thee with the right hand of my righteousness. And the next day, the Spirit of God came out of the sky and murdered 250,000 Assyrians. So when they took roll call, how many dead? 250,000. And they ran away. So you have, and they tell us also, there's a guarantee in the Bible that tells us that we will eventually settle in the constellations of Cancer and Aquarius. And let me also point out, and this is where I want to get into the NASA logo and the Space Force logo. Okay. We're in a contested area of space. We have Saurians or reptilians who went underground 65 million years ago and were assisted in their evolution by the Alpha Draconians or the Red Dragon Empire, whose homeworld is a star called Thuban, which used to be the North Star, which did align with the downward passage of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, if you look at the NASA logo, there are 3 distinct constellations on the logo. Okay. The one at the top is, of course, Orion, which is actually part of the Reptilian Empire. The grays, as you know them, actually come from the 3 stars that kind of hang down as the scabbard or the penis of Orion.
Whoa.
The one on the left-hand side, constellation on the left-hand side, is Alpha Draconis. The one on the right-hand side is the Pleiades, of which we're in the middle between the reptiles went underground. They bifurcated into 2 series of thought, if you will. There's the benevolent ones that are still in contact with the Chinese and the Tibetans. They became vegetarians. They're perfectly happy, being peaceful and being wise.
Okay, good.
And you have the not so nice ones. You have what they call the real reptilians, and they're the ones who still eat people. They're the ones who hunt us. They're probably the reason why you have so many people disappear in our national parks, like 400,000 people each year. But they're also the ones that are doing business with the Illuminati, And we have part of what I describe in the book is Ted Humphrey, and this came as a shock to me when I'm reading it. But they have an embassy at the center of the Pentagon. And if you go to the Pentagon, there's an 8-sided octagon at the middle of the Pentagon that has a bird on top of it that you would think would be an eagle, but it's not. It's actually an owl, which shows, and of course that's the symbol of the Illuminati as well. But there's an elevator that goes down, deep, 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 deep. And we've actually set up an embassy, for the reptilians. So we actually have diplomatic relations with them, the good ones, I would think. Whereas the dark ones are, not only making people rich, like the Dohenis and the Rockefellers, whatever, because you'll notice that all of their wealth comes from underground, comes from oil, gold, diamonds, jewels, what have you. And they're the ones that can practice camouflage. Remember, they have brains that are every bit as good as ours and the size of ours, but they've been using them for about 65 million years longer than we have. And they can actually kind of hollow out a human being and kind of use them as a puppet. And these Illuminati people who worship these reptilian gods, it's a big honor for them to give their children over to the reptilians and allow the reptilians to take them over, which again explains this. And again, I was talking to one of the top guys in government that I did an interview with, and I actually asked the question, are aliens working with the government? And his exact words were, young man, that's not the question you should be asking. You should be asking whether aliens are the government, which scared me to death. He said, why do you think the Navy has all these bases in deserts in the middle of nowhere? Okay, so now let's go to the Space Force logo. The Space Force logo, the bright star you see at the top, that's Aldebaran. That's the bright red giant in the eye of Taurus. And those are the Sumerians. Those are the ones that set up Babylon. They set up Rome. And they came here to try to set up the Third Reich again for another 1,000 years, and they failed because we basically said, okay, you want to mess with us, and we came up with a way to destroy their entire area of space, the whole void of space that they live in. We basically we killed like billions of them. And if you look at the left hand side over there, that's Alpha Draconis, and the constellation on the right there is the Pleiades. So, which by the way is also the symbol for the Japanese car company Subaru. And just like Mazda is their version of the mighty Thor, is their version of their thunder god. And so if you look at the last book of the Old Testament, the New Testament, which is Revelation, there's a war in space, a war in heaven. And it's versus the Archangel Michael and the hosts of heaven. Where do you think they come from? Who fight the great red dragon. And the dragon wounds Michael, and Michael manages to toss that dragon to the ground here on Earth, where they then set up a big fence kind of around Earth so that they can't get out. We can't get out, and nothing else can get in. And kind of tough luck. We're on our own. I mean, this is also the things that people like Al Bielek, who claims that he went to the future, year 2139, aboard the USS Eldridge in 1943. By the way, the anniversary of that's coming up, another 20-year cycle anniversary. It's going to be 80 years on, I think, August 14th, I think it was, of this year, of 2023, which also coincides with a biorhythmic low point of the Earth, which means we'll be involved in some kind of war, some kind of economic collapse. Something bad is really going to happen by August.
Are we going to get involved with a war with these aliens?
We already have. We already kicked them. That's the reason your future and your timeline are different, is we've already beaten them. So now, the great depopulation of 8 billion people on this planet. By the way, 8 billion plus people had mothers, born of women. How many actually were born of men? That would be 0. Even though the Democrats want to tell you different.
Okay.
So,
not a birthing person.
Oh, exactly.
Okay.
So it's now they're even saying that women's vaginas should be called extra holes. So that should be the scientific term apparently. So that's why I wrote these books and why I've dedicated myself to them, to this drop of information. I've spent about 15 years with this information. Finally coming to an end. And when I finished the whole series with the Sumerian War, and then of course the last two, which are the Draco War, part 1 and 2. But everything that I'm describing is basically the scientific version from the inside of this is the reason why the Pentagon spends anywhere between 40 to 60% of the federal budget every year. Why the Pentagon budget is $750 billion plus dollars. Why it's more than the budgets of all 50 states combined. They need an excuse to spend this stuff. And just now, what's going to come out, and you'll hear about this, what's going to come out is that we're going to back the Ukraine war as long as we can turn that into an Afghanistan-Vietnam scenario.
That looks like that's going to happen.
Yeah, where we want it to last. The Pentagon has said this. We want this war to last 16 years. We want it to be just a constant drain. And the reason you've got people like Janet Yellen over there handing them checks for $10 billion is because Putin went in with his Spetsnaz teams. He took out the some 40 biological weapons facilities, which they were saying was a conspiracy theory and everything else. And then Victoria Nuland, who was responsible for the destruction of Iraq the destruction of Ukraine and taking out their legitimate government and replacing and putting in Zelensky, that little troll.
Mm. So what you're saying? What you're saying is this is not Janet Yellen.
No, I didn't say that. I just said she went over there
the picture in this book. That's not her.
No, she's
okay. Just checking. I didn't know.
She looks like the mother of the Three Stooges with that haircut that she has. So,
you mentioned Ukraine. Let me get this question from Doreen B8951. Are they fighting aliens in Ukraine?
No, they're just amazingly evil. I mean, it's that entire area. Let me give you a little Ukrainian history. It used to be called the Pale, and it was called Khazaria originally. And that is where, so Jesus yells at the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And if you'll remember, he says, "You are not of your father. Mm-hmm. You of your father, Satan, the devil. You are thou nest of vipers, thou whited sepulcher." And after the death of Christ, where did they go? Because you had two invasions of Jerusalem. You had the invasion in 66, which then, of course, led to Masada some years later. And then you had finally, the Messiah that everybody was expecting to show up didn't happen until 141 AD with a guy by the name of Rabbi Kokhba. And Kokhba kicks out the Romans, establishes a Judaic monarchy, rules Jerusalem as king, fulfills all their dopey prophecies, and the Romans just went, screw this, we're tired of you, and they come in and they crush everything, and Hadrian takes down the temple. Not a stone is upon a stone. He turns the whole place into literally a sewage plant, and so that all the sewage of Jerusalem goes through the temple just to really mess with them. And where did those rabbis go? When the entire Sanhedrin and the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees, they went to Khazaria. They went to what we now call Hungary, Poland, Eastern Europe. Yiddish is a form of Hebrew, or it's actually a form of German, actually. So and they converted in the 8th century to Judaism because they were right between Christian Russia and Christian Europe and Islam. So they converted because all of these rabbis and Pharisees and Sadducees, they all knew finance. They all knew the Babylonian banking system. And so they taught it to them. And Khazaria became single-handedly the most evil place on earth. They were robbing people. They were enslaving people. They were, it's horrible. And it remains that, to this day. And if you'll notice, why does every single Democratic leader have a kid that's involved with Ukrainian oil? I mean, John Kerry, Hunter Biden.
Yeah, right. They're all going over there.
Yeah, of course, because now they're concerned because Putin basically took out the databases in all the banks, and they're using taxpayer money to replace the money that they've lost. And the reason Putin went in is because they were they were weaponizing various viruses to use against the Russians, as were the Chinese. By the way, there was a paper written in 2001 that was called "A Project for an American 21st Century," and in this paper, it almost started a war with the Chinese because it called for it. It basically said by 2025, we're going to come to a tipping point where the population of just China is going to take all the resources of food of the United States, and that we were going to need an entire new planet just to service the Chinese population. So what we needed to do is come up with a series of viruses that were DNA viruses that were genetically specific that would kill Asians and come up with basically an Asian plague. The Chinese literally almost went to war with us over this thing. So what they did is they got a hold of the COVID viruses, which were designed, again, the SARS virus, designed to kill Asiatics, and which was all an extension of various programs the Japanese were doing, stuff we were working on to drop viruses on Japan, because until we got the German scientists, we were failing dismally with developing an atomic bomb, until the Germans came over and said, yeah, here's how you do it. They and Fauci were weaponizing COVID so that it would attack whites, Caucasians, Europeans. And then, of course, got loose and they unleashed it on the world. But that was right after it killed 22 million Chinese. And they don't tell you that. And the only reason we know that it killed that many people is because in China, by law, you have to have a cell phone. Must have a cell phone. They use it to track you. They use it for social programs. They use it for welfare. You can't ride the bus. You think it's bad here. Yeah. You can't do anything without a cell phone. So we were noticing from space that these crematoriums, these huge clouds of black gas as they were burning all these bodies. Whoa. But what they did with the cell phones is that there was video that came through, actually, oddly enough, the Epic Times showed all this, where they had big bulldozers that were bulldozing giant fields of cell phones, and they were burying the cell phones. But, 22 million cell phone accounts just disappeared. And they all had people connected to them, and those people all died. And once again, the Chinese don't want to admit to that.
Well, hey, Sean, it sounds like we got some good news there, because if they messed up and killed their self, then they won't need to come over and take our farm fields to service their population. But by the way, and I've heard this before about this, the targeting of these bioweapons against the DNA of, say, whites or Americans in general. But do we have one that targets Chinese?
Sure we do. Actually, we developed it because we were developing the same virus.
So isn't it sort of the mutually assured destruction? You send a virus over here for us, we'll send one back over to you.
Because they genetically engineered it to do that. But this all comes out of Fort Detrick. And it came out of Fort Detrick because MacArthur was telling us that if we invaded Japan in 1944-45, we'd lose 1 million people. So there was no success with the atomic bomb, none, until the German scientists came over and, again, showed us how to do it. And, they claimed that they presented a basket of these things the size of pineapples to the Fuhrer. And for whatever reason, he didn't use them. Don't know why. So yeah, we developed, I think it was Project, I'm not sure I have the numbers right, but I think it was Project 721, where we wanted to develop a gene bomb, a genetically specific weapon that would only kill Japanese. Drop it on them, basically decimate the population with a flu, and then we could invade. Now, of course, the Japanese were begging to surrender, and they were begging for weeks in advance before we dropped these bombs on them. But once we had it, Truman wanted to use it because he wanted to scare the Russians. And, of course, then what did you get? You got the Cold War, which was all the benefits of spending the money for a war to keep the military-industrial complex rolling as, look, I have to call it what it is, which is the military-industrial entertainment pharmaceutical complex.
Wow. Okay.
And it was what Eisenhower warned us about. He said, beware the military-industrial complex in his final. Who then Kennedy started messing with it. And so they took out Kennedy. And again, it's not who killed Kennedy, it's who didn't kill Kennedy, because he pissed off everybody. He pissed off the mob, pissed off the CIA, pissed off the military-industrial complex. was trying to create peace with the Russians. So he had to go. So there you go. So that's the whole thing behind why they killed Kennedy.
All right, let's get on to this question here. Well, this is from Believe says Sean, are you a Christian?
Yes, I would describe myself. I know this is going to sound confusing to you, and I'm going to write a book on this, but I describe myself as a Christian Buddhist. And the reason I describe myself this way is because in my study of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and there are two pyramids, by the way. There is the pyramid that you see as the symbol of the Illuminati on the back of the dollar bill.
Okay.
The Satanic Pyramid. You will notice it has 13 levels to it. Mm-hmm. It has the all-seeing eye of the Illuminati at the top, which is the logo for most of the Five Eye intelligence agencies. It has a ribbon underneath it that has two serpent tongues on either side. That's a Satanic Pyramid. And by the way, it was given to Thomas Jefferson by Adam Weishaupt, who was the founder of the Illuminati, who was a recusant Jew who studied at Jesuit schools and who put together the Illuminati. There it is. Thank you. You got great guys in the background working on your show, man. I really admire you.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah, they're doing it great. That's the ultimate goal of all of this, if you want to know the truth, is that can you keep the entire world at peace under one leader? The satanic Luciferic version of this is, of course you can, if you make everything a prison, and that power comes from the end of a gun. As opposed to the other side, which I guess you could say was the Christ side, that you have a theocratic leader with a messianic figure, the incarnation of Christ, and you have the entire world at peace, but we're all at peace because we're happy and we want to be at peace. So Adam Weishaupt gave that symbol to Thomas Jefferson, who then used it as the symbol for the United States. And matter of fact, the bird of the United States was supposed to be the turkey, the wild turkey, because
right. Yeah, it did.
Benjamin Franklin said because turkeys are fat, stupid, and lazy, and they will remind you of what the government is capable of, and which I think we should have had. But the Great Pyramid of Giza is a prophecy in stone. It's the most amazing structure anywhere in time and space. And I've been studying this place, since I was 16 years old. And the Great Pyramid describes a 7,000 year or 7 days of prophecy for mankind, where you have the first, second, third world, where we go down into under the influence of the Alpha Draconians, we go down into the pyramid. They're there. Go down into the pyramid, and then we split because one group that's doomed goes down into the pit. Another group starts the upward ascension, which correlates, if you understand the time coding, with Moses and the Hyksos, or the Israelites, actually escaping from Egypt or leaving Egypt. We're getting kicked out of Egypt is what happened. And at the same time, the Hindu Vedas are being written. You have the Ten Commandments. You have the Israelites wandering in the desert under the direct influence of the guy in the flying mountain, the flying pyramid, with Moses. And then there's another bifurcation that stops. And the entire pyramid radiates outward from a Christ angle, which is 3, 5, and 7, which is the way, the truth, and the life. And it predicts the birth of Christ on September 27th of 2 BC. And it predicts the exact date of the death or the finishing of the Messiah, which is April 1st of 33 AD. Now, I believe that Buddhism worked and operated. That as you had these, and by the way, there was the bifurcation where you had Paul, who came along and gave you the religion about Jesus, which is also like, there was Paul and Peter and all these other guys who turned it into the religion about Jesus, as opposed to the religion of Jesus, which is entirely different. And that then leads to the Grand Gallery, which is then freedom for mankind. But it also says that everybody has to come back beginning 1900 and has to reincarnate. So it's Christianity. I'm absolutely a firm believer that that Christ's mission was that his last act on the cross was to absorb all of it's a Tibetan ceremony, which is called the Tonglen, in which you absorb all the negativity on the planet into your own body, process it through a violet ray or an amethyst fire, and you give off the God force. And that's what Christ did. He basically paid for the sins. He picked up he paid the check for everybody. And I had all these arguments in the monastery with, my brother Tibetans saying, you guys got to go through prayers and all this other stuff, because it's all about karma and dharma. And I keep saying, you were set free, I mean, all you have to do is lay these on the blood of Christ and you're good. And but what it means now, and this is the precipice we're standing on the edge of. It does talk about the population will take off beginning in the 20th century. We would have 8 billion people on the planet. We're there now, which is the trigger. And that the abyss that we're looking at in 2025, which is going to be the systemic collapse of the United States, it's the end of a 250-year biblical cycle. It's the end of an economic cycle. It's the great fourth turning. It is Pluto, which has gone through Capricorn, which means that the destruction of constitutions, banks, society, civilizations, now moves into Aquarius. This is going to be November 19th of 2024, moves into Aquarius. And when it moves into Aquarius, now we're going to have to worry about AI and artificial intelligence as to whether or not that's going to take over. And by the way, last night I saw the new Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I mean, Tom Cruise, he may be a total freakazoid, yeah. The Scientologists have been making the Mormons look sane since 1953. But he knows how to make movies, man. And it was sure, I mean, I literally stood up and clapped in some of these sequences. And the villain in this movie is AI. Is basically AI who has an AI agent who is going to take over everything. And knows everything and controls, everything. And so these two movies are about, Tom Cruise versus artificial intelligence. And so we're standing on the edge of an abyss where the pyramid predicts an Exodus period, from 1999 until the birth of the Messiah or the coming of the Messiah, no matter how you want to look at it, in 2039 AD. And at that time, right now we're at the beginning of the 6th day, where the temple needs to be cleansed, the blood needs to be washed out. Basically, everybody needs to be cleared out of the theater so the next group of people could come.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sean, I just watched Sound of Freedom, and Mission Impossible was next to my list.
Okay, well, I'm going to see Sound of Freedom on Sunday.
Good.
And I wrote a script for Jim Caviezel called Black Seraph and whatever. And I also saw the Indiana Jones movie, and it actually wasn't bad. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was fun.
If you've seen it, let me know. Was it woke? What happened?
Well, you have Indiana is, Harrison Ford's 80 years old. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, they just put in his goddaughter, which is Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Had a kind of a weird series on British TV called Fleabag, where she just plays this kind of, slutty, disgusting woman. And now she's kind of the star. And it's good for me that Indiana Jones tanked, because it means they finally get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, or Darth Kennedy, as they call her, because she's the one that destroyed Star Wars. And now the Saudi Arabians are talking about buying Lucasfilm for $8.6 billion just so they can save Star Wars. And Lucas, when he made the mistake of selling his company to Disney, he came to them and said, look, I got scripts for the last 3 movies of how this all plays out. And they were like, no, thanks. And they handed it to J.J. Abrams, who screwed everything up, and then to Kathleen Kennedy. And now and the next Star Wars movies were going to be Rey and her 2 female apprentices who were going to restart the order. I mean, look, they killed Han Solo. They killed Luke Skywalker for no reason.
They got to bring in the lesbians. But one thing for sure though, being Harrison Ford being 80, he's not going around sniffing little girls. So it's not automatic that when you get 80 that you sniff little girls, is it?
No, Joe Biden is a pedophile, for God's sakes. Matter of fact, there's photos of Hunter with a 13-year-old girl who's naked. Why is he in jail? I mean, all these people, you have to understand. Pizzagate was absolutely real. All these people in the government are chomos, as they call them, chomos or pedophiles or what have you. And again, you cannot achieve great power in the United States without being guilty of some great crime. They have to be holding the end of your leash. They have to be, and Trump just stumps these people because there's nothing they can get him on. And so now you're looking at, I can't use his name, he'll be kicked off YouTube. Let's say his name rhymes with Boros. who's basically he's basically Emperor Palpatine.
Well, we're on Rumble, so you're pretty safe.
Right, yeah, exactly. And and his scummy little son, Alex. I mean, all these people are I mean, they're Bond villains. And where's James Bond when you need him? Of course, they kill him off in the movies too. Probably replace him with a black 007, black lesbian 007. So we're at the end of this precipice.
They're replacing 7 dwarfs with 7 adult men and a multiracial Snow White. You know, I mean, and then you've got the Barbie movie with the Dr. Barbie is a transsexual. So I mean, it's pretty gross out there.
Well, again, woke Disney is disgusting. It's completely different from when Walt was there. But, this was Disney was taken over by a homosexual Jew, Katzenberg, and just turned into a terrible, terrible thing in a lot of different ways. But I still like going to Disneyland. I go to Disney World, and I still think it's, kind of great. But, people stand, for example, Little Mermaid is cultural appropriation, completely cultural appropriation. Why aren't people mad about that? That they make a black Little Mermaid for a story written by a Scandinavian in a Scandinavian town, Copenhagen, about a Scandinavian myth, which is, and suddenly they put a black girl in it. Screw you. Come up with your own stuff.
Well, they wouldn't make a movie of a white woman playing Rosa Parks. I mean, it's kind of a one way deal.
Yeah, why not? Let's do that. White woman on the bus. I'm not giving up my seat. Whatever.
I mean, fair is fair. I just say fair is fair, but it's really not. But let me get to another question that just come in.
Thank you. This is great. I never get to answer questions from the audience. So thank you so much for this.
Okay. All right. Well, here it is from Grumpy Old Army Vet. Says, Sean, was the Spanish flu a man-made virus?
Yeah, I think it was. It was also one of those things that was used. It came from a guy, I think it was an American who got infected in Ireland, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, I can't say I have no real evidence of it, but there are people talking about how it was a biological weapon of some kind that basically just kind of got loose. But
all right, let's speed to a couple more questions for you.
Quick thing: if you look at the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse,
all right,
they perfectly describe the 20th century. The first horseman is the white horse with the bow and arrow that represents Sagittarius and the coming of the Christ consciousness and the enlightenment of humanity with Tesla and Edison and all the great geniuses and all the amazing technological advances. This is so great. You guys are really on the ball. I love your backgrounds. So the first horseman is the white horseman, which is the infusion of the Christos or the Christ force or the Christ energy. The second horseman is the black horse. And the black horse he's riding, and he has a set of scales on it. And that's the establishment of the Babylonian banking system and the Federal Reserve and the takeover of the United States by the Fed and the bankers and these crime families who then divided the United States into basically 12 crime empires, instituted the income tax, instituted the, all that. Once they established the Federal Reserve, it meant they could inflate and hyperinflate the currency, and they could finance all their wars without having to actually raise the taxes, which then became the red horse of war, as you can see on your thing. And then the final horseman is the pale or livid horse of disease, which is the Spanish flu. And if you look at World War I, it killed millions and millions and millions of people, and then they stopped that war. Everybody just gave up. The only reason they signed the Versailles Agreements, which were designed to create Adolf Hitler, between the Warburg brothers, Max and Paul Warburg, who one was on the side for the Nazis, the other one's on the side for the Allies, which basically set it up in such a way so Germany had to pay reparations for a war they didn't lose. But then you had the Spanish flu come in and kill. I still have yet to get a number. They supposedly say it killed 100 million people worldwide. But there's your 4 horsemen of the apocalypse right there. And again, as I'm saying, we're on the precipice of complete and total global depopulation, as predicted by the Great Pyramid of Giza, with the return of the Messiah in 2039, October 31st, by the way. And the reason for that is, the reason we celebrate Halloween is because it represents the return of the spirits of the dead. And so henceforth, all the people who are then forced to leave the planet or clear the theater, so to speak, are now going to be allowed to reincarnate as Earth becomes a spiritual and sacred world, as they unleash technology, et cetera, et cetera. You'll also notice that the book of Revelation happens in sections, because first you have the wars of man versus man, then it's man versus Satan, and then you have an extraterrestrial invasion, which is man versus, whoever's out there coming here.
All right, listen, I'm going to play a quick video clip, and in this clip, Kamala Harris says the quiet part out loud, and you tell me what it is when we see it. Here it is.
Okay. See if I can
when
translate.
we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Well, what did you hear there, Sean?
I just want to show you this. I should get you one of these cups. You guys see this cup?
Yeah, everybody can see that.
Okay. See what it says on it?
Thanos was right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got the glove in the center. Did you see the Avengers movies? Infinity War and Endgame?
No.
And, I am inevitable, and Thanos snaps his fingers and disappears half the population of the universe. That's what the Democrats want. I mean, they want half of us to die. And, her whole thing about, cleaner, she's basically championing, in her ridiculous stupidity, global depopulation. And again, I believe that people are good, and that and unfortunately, it is overpopulation and pollution that forces us to move on to new frontiers, like Mars or the moon or wherever else. And which I also address actually in my Sands Time books. In this book, the Isomer Protocol, which I'm not sure you have or not, the screen for that.
No.
Isomer Protocol is the book where we've been isolated on this planet, and because the extraterrestrials or the council or whatever you want to call them consider us a virus, a disease, that we were not to spread out into the universe, and we kicked their ass, and we developed a technology called the Time Runner, which allows us to travel instantaneously anywhere in the universe, anywhere.
Yeah, there was a movie that said that humans are a virus.
Yeah, well, indeed, that was The Matrix.
Sure.
And you'll notice that in The Matrix, everybody misses this point. I used to teach The Matrix in a class, and the person who creates The Matrix is the Oracle. And the Oracle creates it because she gives everybody the illusion of free will, which is what the elections are. Everybody talks about how they're going to cancel the elections. They will never cancel the elections because they need that matrix to make people believe that they picked it. So therefore, it's the tyranny of the 51% over the 49%, right, that they pick and or choose their government. So they just have to live with it. And by the way, nothing's been fixed. I mean, I don't know if Trump thinks he's going to win. They didn't fix the voting machines. They didn't fix the rigging. You've now got Zuckerberg teaming up with Alex Soros to finalize the fix on the elections. And until you have one man, one vote, paper ballots, people counting paper ballots, the voting machines are all rigged to the internet. They're all rigged to the Vatican. And somebody pulled a switch in the Vatican, which basically, rigged the elections against Trump. And the vote for Trump was so overwhelming that they couldn't cover it up with the voting machines. So at 1:32 a.m., right, everything stopped. And that's when the Vatican got on the phone, called its AFL-CIO mafia crime people, and giant trucks started rolling in with bags of votes with one vote for Joe Biden on them. And the trick is, in any sport or politics, is to beat the other guy by one. And that's what they did. They haven't fixed any of it. Not any of it. And by the way, Trump was yelling and screaming in a moment about this. He was betrayed by all of his own people. Sidney Powell and Ellen Wood were showing up at the White House door every day and getting kicked in the teeth and being told to kick rocks by Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, with all the proof. They filed 60 lawsuits. This is interesting. Here's the chain of events. 60 lawsuits are filed to fight the election fraud. And not one of those lawsuits, not one, was there a demand for discovery. That's stupid. That means if I accuse you of something and I walk into a court and the court says, prove it, you go, I don't need evidence. And that's why they threw out all 60 of those suits, because there was no discovery. And that's why why Dominion turned around and sued Fox, which is owned by BlackRock, by the way. The Dominion voting machines are owned by BlackRock. Fox is owned by BlackRock. They sued BlackRock for $760 $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fox took it out of one pocket, BlackRock took it out of one pocket, gave it to another pocket, and got rid of their biggest enemy, which was Tucker Carlson.
Mm.
That's how that came down.
All right. Last question. Let's take this one here. It says, what's your thoughts on...
I'm having so much fun. We're out of time already?
Well, I mean, we were scheduled to go till 10. You want to go later?
I can go as long as you want, man. I'm having so much fun. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, let's go to this question here. It says, what's your thoughts on Thoth and the Emerald Tablets?
They were in the hands of Hermes Trismegistus, who supposedly ruled Egypt as pharaoh for 1,000 years. Most people believe that Hermes Trismegistus was Enoch or Henoch in the Old Testament. That it was, in fact, and Enoch was the great grandfather of Noah, son of Seth, I think, the grandson of Adam. And Enoch was known as the pyramid builder. But remember, it was Enoch. If you look at the book of Enoch, and by the way, the Christian Bible has 66 books. Mm-hmm. The Catholic Bible has 77 books, and the Ethiopian Bible has 88 books. And so in the Ethiopian Bible, you actually have the book of Enoch, which describes the sons of God coming down from the sky. It's all described in Genesis 6, where it says, and the sons of God came down from the sky, saw the daughters of men that they were fair, took them to wife, had sex with them. And their children became the kings and queens and mighty men of old. Mm-hmm. So what you're being told is that hybrid aliens in that verse became the bureaucracies and the governments, the aristocracy, and then became the generals, the military, the joint chiefs, what have you. The next part of it says, and there were giants in the land in those days, of which they described them later on as Goliath. Goliath had 4 brothers. They were the giants of Anak, is what it was. Matter of fact, I think Joshua and his buddy were responsible for. Turn this damn thing off. No. Joshua and his buddy were responsible for going to. Sorry about that. Going to one of those towns of giants. Giants in the land in those days, and if you get the good translation, it also says, and the giants made slaves of men. Now, if you look at the rest of the book of Enoch, there's 250 sons of God that all come down to earth on Mount Hebron, and they build pyramids all across the world, including the Great Pyramid of Giza. And but they interbreed with human beings. Yahweh comes back, says, "What did you guys do? I told you guys not to screw with the Earth Girls," and they did. And they created a race of giants that apparently, according to Enoch, were 350 feet tall, is what it says. And if you look at Virgil or Homer in the Iliad, they talk about the Argonauts, coming across giants all over the place. And but basically, the flood was sent to wipe out these sons of God, these giants, because they were oppressing mankind. And so there you go. And the rest of the book of Enoch is Enoch goes on for 6 chapters, chapter and verse, called Enoch's Lament, where he screams at Yahweh because Yahweh goes, "Fine, you guys want to stay here so bad? You're all here. Stay. You don't get to go home. Not only do I not get to go home, I'm going to put up a fence around Earth so that nobody can get in and nobody can get out." And Enoch goes crazy, saying they are going to be dark lords. They will oppress mankind until the end, which they do, and supposedly then start the downward path of humanity. And the downward path begins when whomever genetically engineers us so there's a split in our brains, creating a bicameral fissure in the brain where one side, this side is dominant, masculine, aggressive, geometric, 2 + 2 = 4, the masculine side. And this side is the quantum side, which views time and space as all happening at once, but it's where we get our need for, for music, for dance, for beauty, for art, for
well, yeah, you mentioned Gene Roddenberry. Well, there was a Star Trek episode where Captain Kirk had split in the transporter, and he had his masculine side and his feminine side, and as you well know, and in that episode, he needed both of them to live.
They used to teach that episode in psychology class at USC.
Mm-hmm. All right,
that episode.
Okay. And here's another question. Can you talk more about what you are seeing that's going to happen in August?
Well, we're getting ready. We're getting ready for a shooting war now. It's been Putin that has pulled everything back. He knows that we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. He knows the United States did it. Basically an act of war. He did nothing. He hasn't invaded the rest of Ukraine because all he wanted was he wanted the Donbass and areas that were traditionally Russian, who were being slaughtered and murdered and genocided by Zelensky. Zelensky and these guys, they're Nazis, and we put them in there. They're freaking Nazis. And I'm talking about, Indiana Jones, Adolf Hitler, Third Reich Nazis. And that's who owns Ukraine now, because we took out the legitimate government of Politskaya. This is Victoria Nuland who did this, by the way. Set up 40 biological weapons labs. Set up, all the criminal banking that the Bidens have been doing. And Kerry and every other Democrat, and Nancy Pelosi, all their kids have major plays in Ukraine. And Vladimir Putin's put a stop all that, including the massive white slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's this massive push for for people to hate. They really want us to hate Putin, and I'm having trouble with that. Also, I know we're giving billions of dollars to some gay guy that became the president of Ukraine, and dance videos I've seen him in wearing high heel shoes. Now he's leading the country, and we're just funding him billions. There's no end to it. I did see Tucker Carlson interview Mike Pence and some other presidential candidates. Of course, Mike Pence says that, we need, he's not interested in fixing our cities. He's interested in defending Ukraine. And I don't see where there's any strategic importance for Ukraine to the United States.
None. And do people forget that it belonged to the Soviet Union for 80 plus years? And that the part that, for example, they talk about Putin claiming Crimea. Well, Crimea had a vote, and 96% of the people voted to become part of the Russian Federation. As a matter of fact, in the contested area in the Donbass, they had another vote, and 96% of them wanted the protection of the Russians. And if you look at every single action that Putin has taken, he made a joke that since Gandhi has died, I've been very lonely, because every single time he had the chance to take belligerent action, he has not. And so he stopped the United States' actions in Syria because he called out John Kerry when he was talking about how the leader of Syria, God, his name slips me. I'm sorry? Stop it. It's that how the leader of Syria was using gas weapons.
Yeah.
And the Russians said, prove it. And we actually proved that it was that it was in fact not the leader of Syria, but it was in fact the rebels, because one of the weapons, like an exploding cigar, blew up on them, and they got caught by their own petard. So there's the war. There's Hillary's war in Syria stopped. The United States and Israel invaded a section of Georgia during the Olympics in 2008. And Putin just took back Georgia. He could have taken back that entire area. He moved all his nuclear weapons, short-range nuclear weapons out of Eastern Europe, only with the guarantee that we would be frozen in place. And yet every single time we did that, we rushed into the gap with short-range nuclear weapons. And, Putin said, every time I try to make peace, George Bush rushes in like a crazy man with a razor, slashing everybody. So if you've looked at all of Putin's actions, he's done nothing provocative. He has threatened Europe, saying, the war in Europe would take seconds because I could explode a tsunami bomb and create a tidal wave that would take out most of England and France and what have you. Which, by the way, was the exact same weapon that was used on Fukushima, on Japan. Mm-hmm. Same type of weapon. And because that earthquake was artificial. But there's reasons why they're triggering these earthquakes that we can't get into here. Mm-hmm. But, yeah. It's interesting because my birthday is October 1st.
Okay. And, okay. So we over here at the Edge Broadcast have advanced technology. I'm going to show you this picture, which you probably are well aware of, and it's called the Tic Tac video or picture. Okay. Well, we have advanced technology, Sean. We actually was able to zoom in on this craft, and you'll see it side by side what it really is.
What? Okay.
So, yeah. So we were able to zoom in, and that's what we saw.
Oh, is that real? Oh, okay. I get it. It's the Enterprise. Again, let me tell you that again, the UAPs and Louis Elizondo and whatever else, they have $22 million, which is the right hand trying to figure out what the left hand is doing. They're just trying to figure out what the guys at Area 51 and underneath Dulce and whatever else. This is what my Sands of Time books are all about. That you want to know why $8 trillion disappeared out of the economy in 2008? Because we're fighting a war with the Sumerians and fighting a war with the Draco. But on special, please, I haven't mentioned it yet because I'm having so much fun. StrangeUniverseRadio.com.
Okay.
Unless you want to give the money to Dr. Evil, Bezos, who's bald, who makes you, who takes away your mojo by feeding you soy at Whole Foods, and even has a spaceship that looks like a penis, like Dr. Evil. But these books are, Sands Time Book 1, it's on sale to join the adventure. Book 3 is the Isomer Protocol, how we broke loose of, the ETs saying we stay here. Then we developed the Time Runner, which is our ability to teleport things basically instantaneously through time and space. Antebellum, which is this one, is our preparation for that war. I took a break and I published this diary just because I could, and I was sort of in between books. And now the last one, the sort of the beginning of the end, is the book that you see behind me. Which is so
that one's called Antebellum. Sounds like you're a John Wick's fan.
I had the name for the book before John Wick did it, and of course that's what they called the period of time before the Civil War was Antebellum. So
this is one thick book,
and that's part one. That's part one. Part two will be back in stock. Every time I put these books up, they sell out. So we get orders from Australia, New Zealand, Japan. I'm this close to the book one's going to be translated into both French and German. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it on, you get the audio books. All the books are on audio. Go on my website, strangeuniverseradio.com. You can download my award-winning comedy, Joe Killionaire. It's really a great, funny, award-winning, kind of funny horror movie. That's a reality show where all the girls get killed in funny ways. And there we go. And I really appreciate, your help because I've been, struck down with throat cancer. I couldn't speak for months with a tube in my throat. So I just sat and wrote. I focused and just wrote like crazy. And I've written 6 books this year. Books 8 and 9 are done. The Draco War is done, part 1 and 2. And I'm just in the process of, having them uploaded, laid out, getting covers for them.
By the way, what's your cat's name?
Oh, the cat that walked by, that's our kit. She's a kitten of all things. She's her name is Sophia. And it's funny because my wife actually is the manager of SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles, the 8th wonder of the world, the $6 billion stadium. And so we called her Sophie or SoFi. So she's named after the stadium, really.
Well, get that cat, get that cat back up here. Is he walking around?
Shalou over here. Let me show you our championship Norwegian forest cat. Bring Shalou. He's going to be very angry that I do this.
We're cat lovers over here.
Okay, there you go. This is Shalou. He's a championship. Hand him to me. Come on.
Throw him at it.
Ow.
Oh,
Ow.
Wow. Look at it. It's an attack animal. Look at that. Getting attacked on the show.
I know. He hates
this is internet gold, by the way.
Hey, Sophie.
This is internet gold, Sean.
Hand me a cat, can't you?
Hand the man a cat.
Pick her up.
Hand the man a cat.
Now,
here, I'll call it for you. Meow.
Okay. I also learned that my wife, who sucks at charades because I couldn't speak.
Oh, here we go. Here's cat. Oh, man, look at this thing.
This is Sophie. She's a kitten. She's only a year old. She's a Norwegian forest cat kitten.
Wow.
And I found out, she's a year. This is how big they are. This is when they're
attack animal, man.
Okay, go over there. Go see Mama. Here we go. I found out that dogs and cats.
Is that your comfort animal?
Yeah, it is. Actually, dogs and cats are the same as men and women. With a dog, if you point at something, the dog will look at what you're pointing at.
Yeah.
Possibly go get what you're pointing at. With a woman and a cat, if you point at something,
yeah,
just stare at your finger.
Well, it's like 2 cats, though, isn't it?
Yeah, stare at your finger, and then they rub your finger.
Fight. It's like a cat fight. So is this the first show your cat's made an appearance?
Oh, she walks across. It's how cats always wanted to be in the middle of whatever you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's internet gold to me, so I love it.
if you're reading the paper, they'll just lay in front of the paper. If you're talking to people, they'll just insert themselves.
Okay.
So it's it's just it is how they are. Okay. So yeah, Sophie's the happy, friendly one who loves everybody. Shaloo's a grumpy old man who hates everybody. So that's the challenge.
Okay. Well, hey, Sean, we're at the end of the broadcast. Anything you want to tell us again about your website and how to get these books?
The website is strangeuniverseradio.com. We're in negotiations now, actually, with SiriusXM to start an entire SiriusRadio.com channel, which maybe you might want to be part of, because I'm trying to get the best webcast podcast guys out there to do this channel. It means you got to work for a living, like an hour every day.
No.
And or you go on Amazon.com. We have a big sale on Amazon. We're doing an Amazon campaign where you can get the first book that you held up. Thank you. Which is Sands of Time, book 1, which is where the journey begins. And I think I've got it here. Yeah, here we go. Let's backtrack with that. So there's come on. There's book 1, if it comes up. That's book 1, Sands of Time. It's been optioned a couple of times as a TV series. This is book 2. Now, interesting, I wanted to mention this because that's the unified field theory. That is the last thing that Einstein wrote before he saw the face of God and fell over dead in his office at Princeton University. That theory is what allows us to travel through time and space, what allows us to communicate instantaneously anywhere in the universe. The military has developed what they call gravophones, where it's like a Dick Tracy watch, but you can talk to anybody anywhere in the universe in real time. So you can talk to Pluto if you wanted to with in real time with these phones. It's one of the things I wanted to get Elon Musk. Book 3, of course, these are out of stock, but we'll have them Wednesday. So you can order them and you'll have them Wednesday. This is the Eismer Protocol, which you can see on the cover. That's a Viper. It's a fighter plane, actually. Some people call them the TR. You probably heard of the TR-3B. TR, by the way, SR-71, which was going maybe Mach 5 back in 63, 64. Now we've got a commercial airliner that travels at Mach 5 that they're gonna put in use by 2025, 2026, and it's hydrogen powered, oddly enough. TR stands for terrestrial reconnaissance, whereas SR stands for surveillance and reconnaissance. So we retired the SR program and replaced it with a TR program. We have gigantic triangular platforms that just hang out in space and watch the Earth. Book 3 or Act 1 is Time Runner, in which we talk about the invention of the Time Runner, which we developed with the help of the Germans and the Vril-Damen. And then the next book in the series is, of course, Antebellum, which is the preparation for war. And then because I had a space in between books, we did Vril-Damen Diaries, which, again, women love this book. But it's standalone. Book 1 and book 6, actually, or, Vril-Damen, you can read on its own. And then, of course, I don't have the cover yet for, and then the very last book so far is book 7, which is the Sumerian War, which is where, it's the beginning of the end, really. I don't have covers yet for the Draco War, but that's what's next. Because once we wipe out the Sumerians, or the Illagim, as they're called, that then leaves a huge space in the great houses of the universe and leaves us wide open to attack by the Alpha Draconians, which is what happens. And unfortunately, they team up with the Draco inside the Earth, the Saurians in the Earth, which now says that we're kind of at war with who controls our government currently. And I didn't think any of this was real. I thought David Icke was sort of off his rocker. Mm-hmm. And then I learned that the Saurians can actually, use camouflage, become virtually invisible, that they can take on the form of human beings, that they have mental and telepathic and telekinetic powers. Because, again, they've had a brain that's been working longer than ours and better than ours, for about 65 million years longer than we've had it. Also, these ETs come along, the Illagim and the Aldebaranians, they come along and they kidnapped a big gang of monkeys and genetically engineered us and then set us back loose on the planet. And every 23,000 years, they come around. And that's why we all have RH positive genes, where every single one of us has like monkey genes.
Yikes.
I was
wondering, I was wanting a banana the other day. I wonder why that was.
large positive people, everybody's got that. You have certain women, it's only women, that are RH negative, which is impossible because of the evolutionary cycle. But it's a reason why there's no missing link. That's why there's no link between Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon and Australopithecus and whatever else. Because we get taken off the planet, they take the best and the brightest of the monkeys, I guess, the one that figured out how to eat the banana and use a stick,
right,
and wipe out
the
everything
other
else.
monkey.
Yeah, and then wipe out everything else, and create the whole Planet of the Apes kind of thing. So it's
well, that reminds me of 2001: Space Odyssey. You know, the one monkeys they figured out how to use the club to club the other monkeys.
Yeah, that's it. And once again, if you'll notice what Arthur C. Clarke was doing in those books, is that evolution is all about an idea. And by the way, the 100th monkey theory does not work. It's not one monkey does it, then 100 monkeys do it, then all the monkeys do it. That does not work. The one monkey that comes up with a good idea gets beaten to death by the other monkeys. What happens is that the planet itself is evolving. This is the whole Mayan theory of the Mayan calendar. The planet itself is evolving. And so we all come up with the same idea all at the same time. And so now from 2012, when we should have experienced all this mass destruction and did not, to December 21st of 2025, we're in a 13-year period that the Mayan called the Night of the Jaguar. And what it means is that for the first time in 26,000 years, the blocks on our brain, because we had a cover over the right side, then there was a cover over the left side. So the left side cover has been taken apart, which means now we are taking, there's Daniel's brain there. We're taking all of that and the quantum time aspect of art and music. And I think it's another reason why you have so much confusion about sexuality. The feminine part of the brain is finally merging with the masculine part of the brain, which is why we devolved in the first place. And when Pluto moves into Aquarius, you're going to see all this for real. And by the way, we could be on the edge of a new age because Trump is a Gemini. Predictions I made for him, I predicted he'd be president. I predicted he would be betrayed by all the people around him, which he was. But because he's a Gemini, his astrological chart will actually trine Pluto and Aquarius, and he could actually lead us into a new age. But what they're going to try to do, they'll use all the Emperor Palpatine district attorneys to, because all Democrats are attorneys, to wage this lawfare against him to see what they can do about it. Zuckerberg and Alex are in the process of rigging the elections because they didn't fix anything. And by the way, that all came out of the Vatican. And the reason the Vatican didn't want Trump in there is because Trump actually ended the United States Corporation, which you can go on Dun & Bradstreet. You used to be able to check it, but it was owned by Derek R. McLeod, who is the Archbishop of the Washington, D.C. Archdiocese on Michigan and 4th Street. But they owned the United States, the Corporation of the United States, and Trump put an end to that. So I'm not sure who owns it now. He's not president like these white hat guys are saying. I had a show I did earlier today where I was trying to tell people that the whole, white hat QAnon thing is a psyop, is a way to keep people from doing things, to keep people from taking action, like fixing the voting structure. But we're not going to be able to vote our way out of it. Society as we know it is collapsing. There's nothing we can do to stop it. Once again, Emperor Palpatine he's funding DeSantis so that DeSantis gets the nomination. Trump runs as a third party, and or tries to run as a third party. They split the Republican vote, and then they can put in anybody they want. And Emperor Palpatine is backing not only DeSantis with his money, but Michelle Obama. And my prediction is going to be the Democratic convention, just like it was in '68. It's going to be held in Chicago, and they are going to burn Chicago to the ground. Joe Biden's not going to finish his presidency one way or another. I predicted that when he came in 2020. So one way or another, he either dies or has died, or
you say they're going to put Big Mike in there.
It's possible. I mean, he's trying to do.
That's one ugly dude too, I tell you.
Trying to do that, and Joan Rivers told us the truth. She said, that Obama's gay and that Michelle's a tranny, and to get over it, and she was mysteriously dead 3 weeks later. So there you go. So many conspiracies and all that. And strangeuniverseradio.com, please. There's Sense Time 1, Sense Time 2, Iceberg Protocol, 3, 4 is Time Runner, Act 1, Time Runner, Act 2, Real Diamond Diaries, which you'll love. You can buy that as a standalone book. They're all on sale. And, to say thank you. And thank you. I've had so much fun on this show. Thank you so much for placating and serving your listeners, because I never get to answer questions from people, and that's what I love
what we
the most. That's
do
why
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you.
They're like a third part of the show, the guest, the host, and the people that watch the show. Well, Sean David Morton, I appreciate you coming on the Edge broadcast. Hey, if you get your channel up, man, give me a holler.
Okay. Well, my challenge is that I can only talk for short periods of time because I was stricken with the throat cancer, which seems to be over. Actually, they told me that I would have to, for a year to 16 months, I'd have to deal with the effects of the radiation and the chemo and the forced tracheotomy they did on me, which is what really damaged my esophagus. But I can't talk. I'm juiced up on throat coat tea and Chinese loquat cough medicine to be able to spend this gum because they killed all the salivary glands and the taste buds.
You did a great job, and I appreciate you so much.
So do you. This show is great. Your people are on top of it. Your backgrounds are wonderful. You have an amazing audience. I've always been a big fan of yours, and I can't thank you enough for being on. I hope I can come on again.
Okay, sure.
And the very last thing I want to say is that if you look at all great civilizations, to Hermes Trismegistus and the Emerald Tablet, which he was buried with, the motto on it was "As above, so below; as within, so without." The Greeks were "Know thyself." The Romans was "To thine own self be true." The motto of the great American civilization will probably be, more is better. If I just had more of something, it'd be better. But the Maya had a really interesting code, and their code was all is one, life has purpose, God is love. That means everything in the universe is connected. That life has purpose, which means if you woke up this morning, you've got a purpose to do something, to continue and go on. And that God is love, that the first prima mobile of the universe, that everything is generated by love, everybody's here by love. The Tibetans believe we have an average of 80,000 lifetimes, and that in each lifetime, everybody you've ever known or bumped into on the street has been your mother at some time and loved you unconditionally. And that should bring us together, and I hope that philosophy in the end will save us.
Okay. All right. Well, Sean, I thank you, and we'll have you back on again sometime. Thank
you very much. I can't thank you enough, Daniel, for being so amazing. I love the hat. And yeehaw. Thank you very much.
Okay, you bet.